It's been 2 weeks of death and destruction as Russia continues its unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. Millions have left their homes, fleeing west to countries like Poland. We spoke to 2 Ukrainian women who fled the country with their children. They are now sharing their story with the help of their Winnipeg cousin Tetiana Harashchuk, who has joined them in Poland and is now translating their story. Alyona and Daria Zub-Zolotarova and their families were living in Kyiv when the invasion began. On February 24th, their lives completely changed as the attack on the country they call home began.
They grabbed their grandma, they grabbed the cat under their arm, they packed all their belongings in 30 minutes, took all their documents, grabbed any cash that they had in the house, and they started driving to Irpin, which is like suburb of Kyiv.
As shelling and missiles rained down from the sky, Alyona's husband Alexei made multiple trips between Irpin and Kyiv, getting their family out of harm's way. They sought refuge in a family-owned daycare. They remained there for 8 days.
On average, they had 11 to 16 people in this daycare. The basement was pretty small, and that when the bombing got really rough and they all needed to hide in the basement, that actually only the kids could fit. So they put the kids in the basement, and they themselves had to hide elsewhere.
In the 8 days, Alyona's family made food for the community and Ukrainian soldiers. One of their friends, Kolya, would make bread, and Alexei delivered it to suburbs around Kyiv. Alyona shares what Alexei saw.
He saw with his own eyes as Russian soldiers walked through Bucha with their guns and shot anything that they came across. Whether it's a dog, it's a cat, it's a human, it's a car full of humans, it didn't matter. They were shooting everybody.
Alyona says Alexei evaded Russian gunfire multiple times and made it to the daycare. It was clear the situation was worsening and it was no longer safe to stay there. After 8 days, they began making their journey to Poland.
They saw with their own eyes as they were driving that missiles were landing all around them and things were flying over their heads, over the car, and they just were driving. They were out on the road now. They had nowhere to hide.
Alyona and Daria say they saw the destruction and death at the hands of Russian forces. Buildings were turned to rubble and bodies littered the streets. On their journey west, they say highway signs were taken down to prevent Russian troops from navigating around and internet signals were poor. Finally, they were able to contact family in Lutsk in western Ukraine. They stayed with them for one night before making their way to the border.
They arrived at 1 p.m. and they crossed the border around 7 p.m. And they were provided food at the beginning, a little bit of food, and after they crossed the border. But in between, they didn't have access to anything, and they were standing outside when it was cold. There was no place to sit.
Winnipegger Tetiana Harashchuk met Alyona 60 kilometers west of the Polish-Ukrainian border. Daria was separated at the border but was later reunited with the rest of the family. Now they are safely housed in the town of Dzielnik, 60 kilometers from Warsaw. But not all of their family is out of harm's way.
So Alyona's husband, Alexei, he stayed in Ukraine to protect the country and to make sure that it is safe for them to return home. It's the 21st century. They were living their lives. They were going to work. They had their weekends. They had their families. They had their beautiful city, their beautiful country. And now they have nothing.
Alyona, Daria, along with countless other Ukrainians, are asking for the skies over Ukraine to be closed and are calling on countries like Canada to provide more military assistance.
They're asking for the world to help their husbands and their men in Ukraine to protect the country so that they can go back to their homeland and have a country which is free for their kids and their grandkids to grow up in and be proud of.
In Winnipeg, Karpa, CityNews.